I would probably hide the geometry at this point and begin focusing on controlling the stiffness of the various branches. Of course, we want it stiffest at the base, so if I start from the tree root and start with the first spring, I can try and increase the stiffness as much as possible. So the stiffness maxes out at a value of 0.3. So what we can do initially is set most of the branches, which in this case make up the main trunks, have an overall high stiffness. So very close to 3. Even these lower ones here are very stiff as well. Maybe 0.28. As we get further up the branch, we're still fairly stiff at this one. I don't want too much flopping. So let me just do a compared 0.281. These ones are identical, so maybe I'll just go a little bit less to add some overlap in. And at the end branch, maybe 0.269. Okay, everything looks pretty good. I'm making sure everything's been accounted for. And there we go. So if I press play, I'll get a sense of how the tree moves. If I was to start to increase the wind, you can see it's not really doing too much. But if I move it, if I move the tree root null, I get the effect I'm looking for. So it's a little bit too, well, like a googly eyes. It kind of springs a little bit too much. Now keep in mind, you don't really have to move it that much to see any kind of effect. You could even just do a slight rotation. Even if I was to press Control K and add a small rotation back and forth, you get the movement right there as well. So it doesn't take much to get the offset going. And of course then we can get the particles to follow the deformation offset themselves, which will create a more believable look of the leaves rustling due to the wind and the wind's effect on the tree as well. So we've got some objects that we can use. So we've got some animation objects, the actual springs themselves, and then we've got the spring objects that are simulation objects. So essentially you can basically plot the animation back and forth. So I'm going to actually use the springs as my the spring parent objects, these guys here, as my deformers. So I'll group them. I'll use as deformers for the birch geometry. So I'll close all of this up. I'll bring back the birch geo, and I'll create an envelope between the two of them using my deformers group. Now I know it's not going to be perfect because the points themselves are going to be weighted very strangely, but the overall effect should be one of the tree moving in response to the wind or to a rotation on my end here. So I'm going to do a quick blend. Okay, that looks pretty good there. And double check the operator stack. So all I've got is a modeling and a center, and I'm going to freeze the modeling history. So now I'm ready to actually get the wind involved in this animation.